Okay, I've got some visual here, and as I promised last night, I'm going to continue on with a part two of this week. We are at the 15th of February, and we finished up last night Access Workshops 1 through 4. We talked about the concept of a data warehouse. We talked about the concept of a sales database, of a fact a data worksheet, a data warehouse fact query view. We talked about the fact that, and look at those Access Workshops 1 through 4, and how I also had a couple of exported files from Excel, one that dealt with geography, and we looked at pivot tables, and I referred you back to chapters 12 and 16 that give you some extensive information about pivot tables. And so we talked about how we can use that as a tool. And so we can try to maybe get the best of both worlds in terms of a database. And so we've looked at that. We've looked at how, again, how data administration done well helps us build business intelligence, okay? And that gives us a way to, first of all, make certain that we have the best operations internally, and really to also help us find ways to connect with customers and to build customer relationships. Those contribute to strategic, any company's mission or strategy. And so we see how, and we've talked about how databases are really linked up into dashboards, and that's why I have a textbook here for you in the course, and this is the Brown textbook, the Business Intelligence text by Turbin. So you can see how that we use the data warehouse as a place to go get data, okay? And then we export it if we need to, which we usually do, to get and extract information. And then we use that information to make good decisions. Now, before I go in, and now we're ready to go with that, a new piece of the course where we're going to start to work on structured query language and learn some fundamentals about it. Okay. Before I do that, though, I want to go over to the files section, and I want to find the analytical cube, and we'll talk about that for just a second. This is, again, okay, and the analytical cube basically shows us what using the data warehouse concept, okay. And hopefully this thing will download and open up for us. And if you need to, you could, and like we do here, let me do this. Let's go ahead and pop that up a little bit more. But as you can see, as we've talked about these Access Workshops using the Rockoff text, that's the blue one. We looked at dimensions and what those are. Those are variables or factors that relate to our business, typically to stakeholders and transactions, okay? And then we look at what we call measures, stuff we can count, add, multiply, divide, etc. And we see then how we begin to work through the cube to extract data, and here are queries. And here, look at this, how much revenue, okay, that's a measure, okay, was generated by sports stores. That's a dimension or a variable or a factor through outdoor protections in total. And so outdoor protections, that's some kind of dimension. And so you can see it. And so we have for the retailer, and all of these questions. Now, these queries, okay, are usually, you have two kinds. One's the what I call recurring or regular or disciplined queries where this is information I have to have every day, every week, or whatever. And then we also can do some ad hoc queries, those when we kind of what if analysis, where we just kind of do some data mining to see what we might find or what we might have missed. And when we worked with PowerPoint, okay, you'll remember that as we worked with it, I talked about the fact that we can move these variables around. It's very intuitive. We can convert data and measures. We have a place for them. And so I hopefully, with that and with chapters 12 and 16 of the Rockoff text, got you really thinking about pivot tables and got you thinking about what a powerful tool they are, and they truly are. And what we did was basically that process where we talked about how do I collect data, okay, in a data warehouse, right? And then how do I extract some data like the sales data database, okay? And then how can I do some other work with it, like exporting the data out to Excel, and then do analytical work. And even within Excel, use PowerPoint so I can maneuver and move things around a lot more easily. I can do a drag or drop, okay? This is pretty much the whole process that occurs in data administration, with the exception of one thing. Why are we collecting the data that we collect? What do we do with it? Okay? And so that's an important thing to talk about and to understand, all right? And to understand the difference between what we call supervised and unsupervised data, all right? But how do we use this to build our business intelligence capabilities? Okay, and thus contribute to the sustainability of the company. So here is that analytical cube. Now I also wanted to go down here and see if I can find it, if I loaded it in here, the cube. And so let me walk down here. Okay, we're doing a little. Here we are. This is a PDF. And then we'll talk about the wisdom triangle. And again, I laugh at myself because I teach about databases, but I won't use a search function. I can be a little goofy at times, can't I? Okay, here it is. And you've seen me, if you've taken other courses with me, you see me call this up all the time, because this, I believe, summarizes what you and I do for a living. The Q, the quality of the decision. A are the known and unknown conditions or states of nature, and B are the known and unknown alternative courses of action or options that we have to address those states of nature. And you can start to see, here's that quadrant. And you say, that looks suspiciously like a type 1 and type 2 error type of matrix size I saw when I took statistics. Yes. But this time we're talking, or you say this looks suspiciously like a payoff table. True. Okay? But this quadrant, our job, is to try to move the known to nudge it out as we deal with low or no risk, high risk, or moderate risk kinds of situations. Okay? So again, we're gonna lift the hood of access and queries, and we're gonna go down and take a look at it. And then let's look at the wisdom triangle. We'll download this, and this is just kind of my way of review, and it's a good time for us to do this because we're right at that point now where we're ready to start to write queries and to look at some queries. And the wisdom triangle, okay, and let's see if it's going to render for me or not today. That's strange. Huh, how odd. It's supposed to be in a PD. If I thought, what's in the dock? Let me open up from there and see how it renders out. Okay. Let me expand this up for just a second. We'll talk about it. In fact, I can zoom in on about the wisdom triangle, and we'll start at the bottom. We get actionable and reproducible data. That's information. Okay? Information is data that I can reproduce, okay? And data that's actionable. I can do something with it, okay? And I give you an example there, and I'll zoom in some more on this. I have purchases, history, and contact data on customers in a data warehouse. So I can reproduce it by copying the information. I can take some action on it. And then I have replicable and reproducible information equals knowledge. And this is down here, these are short-term operational types of data. Here we've moved into the realm of knowledge, and that's medium and tactical in terms of company strategy. I use business intelligence to discern customer purchasing patterns, okay? And then we come up to what we call generalizable and reproducible knowledge, and that's company wisdom. And notice I have long-term, I have an example because this is long-term and strategic in nature. I use available knowledge to identify current and future prospective customers and their desired goods and services bundles now and in the future. These insights are used in a SWOT analysis in a strategic planning cycle. So you can see we go from data to information, information to knowledge, and knowledge to wisdom. Okay, and we go from the short-term operational to the tactical to the strategic. Okay, so we'll close this off, and that kind of gives us the conceptual kind of reintroduction as we start to look at and we start to work through the SQL in the course. All right, now here is the Patrick text, and this is where we're going to draw from. We're going to do the queries, and I want to look inside for just a minute. All right, and then I'm going to go into the table of contents. I'll go back to the whole table of contents. What you're going to see is we're going to be writing queries, okay, that accomplish. We're going to start from just learning how to put queries together to writing queries that accomplish certain things for us, especially things like row functions, summaries, and then linking tables and how we do that, different approaches. Okay, so we really take a data warehouse and start to connect things. We get that data, we get that cube, analytical cube. Remember when we looked at analytical cubes, several colors, and it's all mixed together as we start to mine data. Okay, and we'll come down then, and in chapter 20, all right, you're going to see there's the design of SQL. You might want to take a look at it. Okay, and then there's a diagram over on page 783 of the lunches database. That's the database we'll be looking at, we'll be working with. And so this is going to build progressively. Now you say, Dr. Hartman, I'm not a programmer and I don't want to be. I understand that. The reason that I have us do this is, first of all, he has the queries written for us. We can just simply cut and paste. Okay, and then we can look at a data set, go back down to the design view of a query, and then go down to the SQL. And what you're going to find is you're going to find SQL is very easy to learn. This will, as we go through repetitions of this, every week from here on out, you'll find it. You'll start to look at a query and go, oh, okay, I understand what it's telling me. Okay, but each of these are purposeful in terms of what we do with queries. Okay, so I wanted to let's see. I want to go back over here to the files section. All right, I want to talk about what are we going to be using as we work through the SQL fundamentals textbook, as we work through those queries, as we write those queries. What we're going to be using, we had the Rockoff text, we had those, and now we're looking for the Patrick materials, and here it is. You'll see that it says the Patrick materials. It's a zip file, and I'm going to download it. Okay, and I'm going to find I've got the Access SQL code for specific chapters. So for each chapter in the textbook, he's going to show us the code that we use to run a query. Now, close that for a minute, and I want to go back over here to the SQL fundamentals, and I want to go here and let's take a look at let's see, row functions. Okay, and I'm going to search. I'm going to search a bit for rows. All right. Here's an example. Okay. What he will do is he's going to give us, I'm trying to find a specific page in here so I can, bear with me here. Here we go. He's talking about data stored in tables. Okay. He shows a conceptual diagram of a table, the parts of a table. And then he's going to walk us through developing a query. And so we're just kind of understanding what tables are, how they're put together. Okay. And he shows us this a couple of tables. All right. And then we're talking about the design features. And if you have your textbook, which you should, okay, if you take a look over, I believe it's at page 35. And I'm just going to keep scrolling here till let's see if we can get there. Getting information from a table. Okay, good. He's going to show you the overview of a select statement. 99% of all queries are are selects. Somebody asked me a great question last night in class, after class or during class. Why would we use a query to append data to a table? Why would we use a query to create a table? Okay. Well, the reason we have those techniques is because when this all began, we didn't have icons. We worked at the DOS level. Okay, we didn't have a drag and drop or iconic view like we do now with Access. And you're going to hear me talk about that all the time, especially in SQL Access in the design view, where I see the table I'm going to pull the data from, and I see that little grid where I'm going to choose the fields, and I might put in a criterion. And you remember that from 1123. Before and you remember that in Access, like most database products, if you have the authority, you can just go in and create a table. In Access, it's simple. You just click on the create the table, then you add the fields, you might add a primary key. We did all that in 1123. But prior to that, we would run a query. Okay, so that was a good question, but it helped me give us a segue to kind of be evolving into it. And sometimes we want to append data to a table because we have a whole bunch of record sets that need to be added in. Otherwise, most tables get populated by a form of some kind. You say, what are you talking about? Well, you know, I'm over here at Access. I'm going to go down here and I'll show you. This is I was right, page 35. This is what we're going to see as we go throughout the rest of the class. Here's the task, some business task, some information we need to get or data. And then he'll show us the Oracle and Access SQL. And you see the little notations there. Those will be little notes in your textbook that he explains, here's what this is all about, whatever. And so we're going to look at this very first one, okay? And you'll find this in the Patrick materials, of course, over there in the code for the chapters. It'll be the code for chapter 1, I think, or 2. And we have this task, all right? And let me zoom it up a bit for us. Now, it says, show an example of a select statement that uses all of the clauses just listed. So this is progressive. We'll learn. Last night we just simply put select asterisk from, I think it was the L underscore employees table, which was just saying, let me see everything in that table. The asterisk is a wild card, okay? And here we're gonna, and here is in English, in human speak, what here we have here in language speak. Select employee ID, okay? Last name, credit limit. So it says, okay, select, and then, okay, what columns or dimensions do I want to get? Okay, and I want employee ID, their last name, and their credit limit. What table am I using, or what query am I using to get the data? And it's from the L underscore employees table. And then we use a conditional statement where we say where the credit limit's greater than 20 bucks. Okay, it could just as easily be equal to or greater than $20, or less than $20, or equal than or lesser to. It's, but you know, we in 1123 we did some Boolean logic. We also did, and so here we are again. So I want everybody whose credit limit's greater than 20 bucks. And then I want to order them by last name. As I told you, SQL, structured query language, SQL, okay, is a very specialized command and control language. Okay, it's a sub-language. This doesn't have a loop or any of that stuff. It just says, here's what I want, where I want to get it from, and how I want it presented to me. Here's what I want: employee ID, last name, credit limit. That's the table I want you to go get it from. Now, could I get it from 2 tables? Yes, and we're going to see as we get later down the course where I can link it as many tables as I can handle. And that's when a database gets exceptionally powerful. Okay? That's when we really do some exceptional data mining. And then I can attach a condition to it. This is like kind of a filter. And then order it by last name. You say, that sounds like I'm going to sort the data too. Absolutely. So I'm going to filter it and sort it. Okay? Now, here's the beginning table. And the thing I like about this textbook, and I think the thing you'll find it so helpful, is that you see the beginning table, okay? And then you'll see the result table as having run the query. Now let's go through these guys and take a look for a moment and see if this magic actually works. Well, okay, we have the employee ID. Yeah, we got that. We want their last name. We have last names. And we want people whose credit limit's greater than $20. Well, there we go. And I wanted them from the employees table. Is Brown in that table? Yes. Campbell? Yes. Hoffman? Yes. Kern? Yes. Perkins? Yeah. Smith? Yeah. And then the same with Woods. And we'll be doing this, and the queries will become a little more complex and a little more complex. And then we'll move from simply running a query to harvest data to running queries that let us sum and aggregate data, to queries that let us link tables together and then do stuff with the data. And let me say this. I think that there are two major benefits you get from this. First of all, you have an understanding of how these queries are written, and you have an understanding now of a database warehouse and what we do with it. And so you're way ahead of your contemporaries. So when you go out on the job, you're going to be able to say, yeah, I've worked with databases. Yes, I wrote some SQL. Yes, I know the difference of SQL and Oracle. And that's going to give you a leg up, because we have so much data, okay, that we're just racing to be able to harvest it and to use it. Companies today have so much data, they don't even know what to do with it all. So this is an important course that helps us focus on the cube, the analytical cube, then that wisdom triangle, okay? And so we're going to pop under the hood and take a look at it, and we'll see the kinds of things we can do and the types of information that we want. So you'll have that practical experience. The other is this: is I truly believe, as you work through these and you use that logical piece of your brain, it just simply, and when you problem solve, see, what you don't know is there's magic happening in your head. When you take a class, especially one that makes you analyze something, and you get it right, you may not be jumping for joy or turning hand flips, although with some of the accounting courses you probably are. You're getting a neural pathway in your brain that's built that says, I like this, I can do this, or I don't have to be afraid of it, okay? And all I can tell you is that today we have the most competitive environment for business we've ever had. It's global. And the competition is built on analytics. Can I take the data that's out there in a market or an industry and get an insight that gives me a leg up on my competition? You know, I love cars, okay? And as I go through the purchase, process, okay, it's interesting to watch as I come down to what was really the deciding factor, okay? What was the really deciding? And on one of my vehicle purchases, one of them, it's a no-brainer. It has a Sirius XM and everything I want. The other one doesn't. Now it has an infotainment system, but it's an infotainment system that's really more of a platform for me to plug in my laptop or a tablet or my cell phone, and to use the cell phone as the cell phone is the place where I go procure stuff. Okay, it's two different luxury cars, and so I think about it, and I thought, okay, well, yeah, that makes sense. So as they looked at this, now you can see it, or does it have, does it have heads-up display, or just something like, uh, I'm Jack in the Box, and what do I sell people this time of year to get them in the door? Okay, or I'm Chick-fil-A, or I'm Mardale, and how do I market to? And my market is walk-in customers, but big traffic are churches and folks like that. Competing on analytics. There's a textbook, there's a book out there, and if you've had the policy course, I'm not teaching the policy course this semester, but I use a text called Competing on Analytics, and it's by a guy named Davenport. It is the most important book that's been written in business in the past 20 years. Okay? So as we go through this exercise in the Patrick text, we'll be doing this. We'll be given a business problem, or here's something we want to get. Somebody says, hey, can you get this following data? And we'll put together a query. Okay? And there's the beginning table, and there's the result table. Okay? Now, I'm going to go back over here to the files area, and let's go back again. All right, and I'm get the Patrick materials, and we're going to download it. All right, and I'm going to score this down just a tad, and I'm going to diminish, close that off, and I'm going to get the access SQL code for specific chapters, so I'm going to put it out here on my desktop. Okay, and let's see if I can find it. Here it is. And there's my friend Cardinal Buddy. As you can see, he's there in the Grand Tetons. And then I'm going to get SQL Fund 2007. All right. Now, I'm going to open this up, and let's take a look at it. No, let's just open it up and then hide and then put our hands over our eyes, because it scares me. I'm teasing you. Okay. We have a data warehouse. Okay. We have tables of all kinds of dimensions. There are some queries here, and that's what prompted the question last night. And this is a zero. These are constants queries. Okay. And then you'll see an employee entry form. So I've got SQL Fund, okay, and I've got it, and then I want to get the access code. So I'm going to open this up. Now I'm going to get the access code. I'm open up for chapter 1. We did that last night some. And here we are. This is problem 112 or section 112. And this simply says select everything that's in the L underscore, the 1 underscore or L underscore employees table. You say, hey, it says select. That's pretty simple. Listen, this is also hard and difficult. I don't know if you can figure it out and understand it. I'm being facetious. Okay? I'm being very facetious. All of you have the brain power to deal with these. Some of you, sadly, didn't go into computer science when you should have. Some of you, sadly, didn't go into accounting when you should have, because you let some quantitative things kind of scare you off. And I know you. I've had you in class. You're very bright people, okay? And so I'm not ever going to waste your time in class. Trust me, every minute you have with me is a good one. Every war story I tell you, y'all listen to it, because I've been out there. I've earned the gray hair and wrinkles, and I try to link it back to theory. So we're going to select everything. The asterisk is a wild card from the employees table. You say, why would I do that if I could just click on the table and look at it? And you say, what do you mean? Okay, well, instead of writing a query, I do this. I'm going to go up here to the employees table. And here, I'll open it up. Now, when I was talking earlier about having an iconic view, when I first started working with databases, I didn't have a pretty ribbon and all this laid out, and the tables with their own kind of shape, just like traffic signs. I'm being a little facetious. Oh no, I worked at the DOS level, meaning I wrote code for everything. Okay, Access is the granddaddy or grandmama of all databases that are iconic driven with drop down menus, on and on and on. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Microsoft employs 2,000 or 3,000 people a year who work on nothing but MS Access. This stuff up here, these icons and all that, are hundreds of thousands, probably millions of lines of code. Okay? Now, you may run into someone who says, well, do you know anything about Visual Basic? Visual Basic is a programming language for Access, and then there's one for Excel, and you can do some nice stuff with it. But the truth, and this is just my opinion, the truth is, as a decision maker, if you're doing that, okay, you need to rethink things. Okay, but there are people out there that it's just going to depend upon what you want. But for most of you, you're going to be lucky to have a great database and a way to export it to some analytical engine, like a spreadsheet, like Excel, or maybe some spreadsheet product that your company ascribes to or uses. Okay. Now, that being said, okay, I could click on that quite easily, or I can go ahead. I'm going to close this, and I can write the query. You say, okay, how am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to click Create. Okay. And I'm going to do Query Design. Now, I'm going to close that, and I'm going to go to the SQL view because I'm going to write the SQL. And I'm going to get it right out of here. And here it is. And I'm going to get Select from employees. Okay. Now I'll just paste it in. All right. And then I'll run the query. Now, if you look here to the left, I can look at the design view. And when you took 1123 with me, we did a lot of work at the design view. Well, let's go down there. And here we are. And this looks very familiar to you because we worked here. And so, this is just saying, I'm going to get everything out of there. Now, if I were going to do the design view, I'd just click on that asterisk and away we go. But I wrote the code. And so let's go. And so this is the design view. And let's go back now to the SQL view. And there we are. Okay. Now I'm going to close that. All right. And let's look some more at some more of the code for chapter 1. I'll open up, and we've got just some simple select, and here we have select for employees, and the author says, let's do it 25 times just to make sure I beat it in your head what this means. Okay, and no need to do that. That's craziness. Let's look at chapter 2. That's when the fun begins. Now this is 2.2. Okay, and let me go back to my book, and let's see if he can whip me down to chapter 2. Here we go. We'll talk about the select clause, and we use the select clause here. And here we are. Take a look at this. Get the entire table, all the columns and all the rows. Display all of them in the same order as they're defined in the table. And he says select from all the table, from employees. There's a beginning table, and here's the result table. Then we come down to page 43, and he shows us a variation where we add a where clause. All right. And we'll open this up. We'll open up SQL for 2, and let's see where he has us. Here we are. We're going to use the where clause. Now I want you to. I'm going to change the format of this for just a moment on the font to make sure we can see it very clearly. Okay. Here's we're going to select the employee ID, last name, the credit limit from the employees table, where the credit limit is greater than 20. That's a where, a conditional statement, and then we're going to order it by last name. So we're going to do, I'm going to copy this. Okay. And then we're going to go over here and I'm going to click create, query design. I'll close that. I'll go to SQL. And I'm going to say, run, little buddy, run. Run, Forrest, run. There it is. Okay, now we're going to do some more of this next week. So I'm kind of giving you a bit of an overview on this. But let's look at it. Do we have the employee ID? Yeah. Do we have their last name? Yeah. Do we have the credit limit? Yep. Yep, as they like to say. And I'm going to pop back up here. And there we are. Success. That's our result table. And as you're going to see, we use the order clause. And then we use the Santa Claus. That's a bad, stupid joke. I know. It wasn't funny. It was a pun. Okay, forgive me. But here's another one. So I think you can see what we'll be doing. And this will all start to it'll start to fall itself in place. Okay? Well, let's look at one more. We're going to add an or by select distinct. Now select distinct, for example. This is over on page 47 in your textbook. And let me say this. Anytime you watch one of these video screencasts, whether you're remote or you're in the classroom, that first hour or hour and a half I do each week with you, or you're watching the screencast live, always have your book with you, okay? Have your textbook with you. And then, you're going to be able to follow what we're doing. Here we're going to select distinct. What this means is we're going to get rid of any duplicates. Okay? No, and so we just want to clean select, and we'll do that. Okay? Now, let me tell you something. I have a physical copy of the book, all right? And if you haven't, contractually I'm obligated to say, you should get your book from the bookstore. But if something should keep you from being able to do that, don't. And if you got Kindle, I've even thought about with this text and some of these others about using a Kindle textbook, because to me it just shows you what I'm talking about. And I keep thinking to myself, okay, I'm just going to rent the Kindle version for a while. Well, folks, I think that you have a sense of what we're going to do, and we'll go through those. Okay, and then we'll save them. And let me take us back over now. Let's go over to the modules. And once each week we've worked through, well, let me show you. Here's lunches database 6, 7, 8, 9, 11. I mean, those are the database lunches database queries we design and work through. Okay. Well, that's going to pretty much do it for us and for this section. And if I see that I've come up a little bit short on some time, then I may do one more little segue, or I may find some YouTube videos that would be useful for you to take a look at, okay? But that's basically what we'll be doing as we work through the course. Now, let me go up here for just a minute. Let's go to the modules. And I want to talk about, okay, where we are. Don't forget about the resources I've got over here for you. You can see those. Patrick Materials, Rockoff Materials. Teradata, we'll be doing some work over at the Teradata University Workshop. And I've got some things where we'll have to do some importing. And I have some databases that I think are useful. A whole bunch of resources. So for this week, okay, you had the Rockoff exam, and that was it. Now, for next week, you have access 1, 2, 3, and 4, and there's a file. I've showed you that 2 or 3 times of what to upload in there. And then I have some resources, okay, that we'll talk about. Then we'll start to work on the lunches databases. And when we do it, then we'll save it as lunches database 1. We've done that work. We'll upload it. Okay. And we'll always be working with the the code for specific chapters. Okay, and as well as the SQL Fun 2007 database. Okay, so I'll tell you what we're going to do now. I'm going to pause. I'm going to stop the sharing and stop the recording and end the meeting, and this will be part 2. And I hope this has kind of got you straightened and understanding why we've kind of taken this juncture in the course, because now we're looking under the hood and we're doing a little bit of work. Okay, thank you so much, and I will see you next week.